literary franchise of the 40k, mid. This is just lazy writing for me. The other videos next time, I really want to play Blue Archive. Alright, 500 Worlds, Guilliman and the Lion are finally gonna meet. Present time, I guess the Lion has been resurrected. Guilliman's currently in charge of the Empire. Let's see what this one's all about.
Hi gang, so the Primarch catch-up we've been waiting for years at this point is finally, it seems, on the horizon. 500 Worlds Titus ends with an ominous transmission out of the void as the Dark Angels approach Ultramar. So, let's go through what we know about the family reunion of the Millennium.
I was under the impression that the 500 Worlds thing was merely about, was all about Titus being given an order by Guilliman to basically reclaim the lost glory of Ultramar, which is like 500 worlds. But you know what? Before we continue, please like, share, subscribe, do the whole notification button thing to help me out with the algo. And here we go.
Did you know there's a second Arbitor Ian channel? Head over to Arbitor Ian's Precinct House.
Definitely check that out.
So, 500 Worlds Titus is up for pre-release as I write this, and of course the main story of that book concerns the campaign to expand Ultramar and the actions of Captain Titus as he helps out, and I've got a whole video on the lore of that. Don't worry, it'll be out next week, but before that I thought I'd do a quick video on one little teaser hidden at the very back of this book, because it's probably the closest to a reveal we've got, and as is traditional on YouTube, we can read far too much into a tiny little bit of text. So, on the last page of Titus 500 Worlds, the background book from the new supplement, we have a mysterious transmission. The transcription, which I've recreated here in full because of the weird way we get books nowadays and what we're allowed to show, reads as follows. Accessing a data reliquary that is on an agri-world, Dastori Ultex, on the edge of Greater Ultramar. Salutations of the Omnissiah Nova Marines Captain Halvros. There is a message. This message is for Primarch Robute Guilliman, Ultramarines Lord Commander Imperium Lord Regent. It's coming from the Rock of the Dark Angels chapter. Positional triangulation inconclusive, but approaching the Protoss front, Greater Ultramar. Appended Adeptus Astartes signifiers for some other chapters. Advisory, override clearance signifier attached to Vox Missive, exceptional antiquity. Clearance signal confirms no error. A tech Magos suggests data.
If this these lines specifically come from the book, you can consider this as lazy writing in a sense that they're trying to make, instead of the writer actually describing this to the audience or describing the transmission to the audience, they just, decided that, you know what, here, you can look at the message yourself. I don't have to describe it for you. Like I said, I always found the 40k, franchise, or the literary franchise of the 40k, mid. This is just lazy writing for me. Instead of describing what exactly was in that transmission, no, they just, you know what, here's the paper, you can read the transmission for yourself. That was it. But silver lining, I have been reading into Gotrek and Felix Trollslayer, and I'm definitely enjoying it.
To corruption, but clearance signifier confirms no corruption, and the ident of this signal is Lion L. Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels. And once the transmission is downloaded, we get the transcript, which is very short. The transcript says, "Brother, we need to talk." And that's it. So, big picture, the Lion and his fleet is inbound to Ultramar with the intention of talking to Robute Guilliman. That's the very short version. It's something people have been talking about for a while or wondering when it's going to happen. It looks like it's going to happen. But if we go through this and drag out all the really small details hidden in this Fantastic bit of color text. This is what we know. So an agri-world on the edge of Greater Ultramar, the reclamation zone, the zone that's being made Ultramar again, likely to the very west of Ultramar.
We have to rely on Arbiter Ian to actually describe the entire thing for us instead of, the writer simply going out and doing his job. But that's like the writer. What he did was literally hand you the paper. Here, read it for yourself. Read the report yourself.
That would be the edge closest to the rest of the Imperium. Remember, Ultramar is all the way out on the eastern fringe. The transmission station there has logged a message. Message has been accessed by a Nova Marines captain. The Nova Marines are Ultramarine successors. Their homeworld on Orium is actually miles away across the Great Rift over here, but let's assume some of them are fighting in Ultramar. The message has a corrupted time code. This station's been attempting to send it on for some time, but hasn't been able to. So we don't know how old this message is. The message is for Arbitor Guilliman, and it's coming from the rock, which, as we know, is the Dark Angel's Fortress Monastery. We last saw the rock with Lionel Johnson in the ruin of Old Caliban, which is all the way on the other side of the galaxy. It's in the northwest of the galaxy, in Imperium Nihilus right now, so across the Great Rift. We last saw it in action.
Interesting.
During the Arcs of Omen campaign, as the Dark Angels attempted to stop Vashtor the Archiphane from rebuilding Wormwood, which was like a webway tunneling device. That didn't work. Vashtor got Wormwood and got away. The message has signals from these three chapters, the Guardians of the Covenant, the Consecrators, and the Angels of Redemption. Those are three Dark Angels successor chapters who were also involved in the Arcs of Omen plot. So they're apparently still traveling with the fleet. We know it's approaching. It's getting closer to the Protoss front, which is the westernmost expansion area of the whole Ultramar reclamation. That campaign is divided into 4 tetras, and Protoss is the base for the western part. The western part is led by Captain Balthus of the Doom Eagles. And if we take all that information and we try and apply it to the map, that puts the Dark Angels fleet somewhere around here, sort of heading in that direction. And then finally, we know that the message is from the Lion, and it definitely is, because it prompted a whole load of security checks, because his authorization code is so old that they think it's an error, and it isn't. So yeah, that's what we know. That's all the
it might still be some time, but okay, let's go.
information, sorry. Last time we saw the Lion was in the Arcs of Omen campaign in 2023. That's 3 years ago. It happened just before the release of 10th edition 40k. He'd woken up and risen in Imperium Nihilus, over on the other side of the Rift, and he fought alongside the Blood Angels, and of course the commander of the Blood Angels, Dante, had been named Regent of Imperium Nihilus by Guilliman years before, near the start of the whole Great Rift storyline. The Lion that we got when that happened seemed a lot more wise, calm, tempered than the characterization he had in the Horus Heresy. In the Horus Heresy novels, he's sort of permanently angry at not being considered the best at everything, while also absolutely denying he feels like that.
Guilliman-Lite has been described. Was either one of us described as Guilliman-Lite?
He's a complete arse. He like randomly kills his subordinates out of hand. He's not a very nice person, but it seems like after his long sleep, he seems to be a bit wiser and a bit calmer. One of the big things is that he didn't seem to have much ambition to rule. When he rises, he doesn't question Dante's role, for example. Seems like he mostly wants to just hunt down traitors. One thing we haven't seen yet, because we sort of left that campaign at the end of the battle, we haven't yet seen what effect this had on the Dark Angels. One of the big things is that he insisted that not all of the fallen are bad and started to redeem them. They became redeemed and became risen, but we don't know if there's any more fallout in the Dark Angels with the return of their Primarch. We don't know how they've got there, what they've had to do to get through the Great Rift, but they have travelled from one end of the galaxy to the other, which explains why no one's mentioned them this edition. And they're now inbound to Ultramar to talk to Guilliman, which raises the next big issue that Guilliman isn't in Ultramar. One of the big plot points of this.
Well, isn't he supposed to be on Terra since he's, the one running the show?
this book is how Guilliman has left the conquest of Ultramar to the Ultramarines chapter and the other SHIELD chapters. Marneus Calgar was first on the Natman Gauntlet and then transferred to the Bastial front, the start of 10th edition, to fight Hive Fleet Leviathan. He's still sort of there. And then the last time we had a location for Guilliman himself was around the Pariah Nexus at the end of the Dawn of Fire novels. That's a bit further to the west of Ultramar. So we might end up with that being a problem. Maybe the Lion gets there and then does something else because Guilliman isn't there. However, I think if this is the last thing in the 500 Worlds Titus book, it looks like it's likely to be the plot of the next one. So maybe Guilliman is going to have to head back to Ultramar, whether he wants to or not. As I said, there's not a load of new information, but we can...
What exactly is the implication in all of this? Comments, please. I mean, fine. Lionel Johnson is on his way back, but so what? What would be the point?
Have a few guesses of what it might mean for an ongoing plot. I would suspect that we would get the meeting between Guilliman and Johnson in the next campaign book, not in a novel. I would guess after some war the Lion has to fight out in the West. Big events like Primarch returns and Primarch stuff usually happens in campaign books in 40k. When Guilliman returned originally, which was at the start of 8th edition 40k in 2017, that happened in the Gathering Storm campaign books. There's no novel about that. There were novels after that explained like how Guilliman felt about returning. And then when the Lion returned in 2023, the big reveal for that was in the Ox of Omen campaign book. We then got a novel that sort of detailed him waking up and figuring out where he is and the story of like what happened before the Ox of Omen campaign. If you follow that, you end up with the meeting happening in the next campaign book, and maybe there being a tie-in novel that maybe explains the really long journey that they've taken since Wormwood, or what's happened to the Dark Angels. I think the big question will be, brother, we need to talk. I mean, about what? At the moment, I don't think we know.
What exactly is the implication of the entire thing? Like, what's the point? What would be the point of this? Is there going to be a fight?
Guilliman is aware the Lion exists. I'm not sure that's been in any other books, so that's going to be a surprise. But there's evidently something the Lion has journeyed all this way to do. I think there's probably two big ways you could take this plot. The first one is that he needs to talk because he's unhappy or angry about something Guilliman's doing. Possible things that could be. The last time we saw Guilliman and the Lion together in Ultramar was actually back in the Heresy, during the plot line to do with Imperium Secundus. During the Heresy, the Ultramarines, the Dark Angels, and the Blood Angels were all trapped on the other side of the galaxy by the Ruin Storm, which meant they couldn't get through to help out the Emperor fighting Horus. And for a while, they thought the Imperium might have actually fallen, and Guilliman came up with this quite contentious plan to form a backup empire, basically. Imperium Secundus, based on Ultramar, he elected...
okay, got it. The Imperium Secundus, okay.
Elected Sanguinius as the new emperor and the Lion as the Lord Protector, and no one was like very comfortable with it. It seemed like a sensible idea, but also a bit like usurping the emperor. And then they ended up breaking it up and dissolving it when they found out that the Imperium was still resisting. Maybe the Lion is seeing this reconquest of Ultramar as Guilliman trying to make another empire again. That's actually something that is mentioned in this book as during this reconquest, one of the...
I'm not honestly worried about it because we've already established that Titus is blessed, son of Guilliman, by the Emperor himself, that he is touched by the Emperor himself. He is ordained, that's the better word for it, by the Emperor himself.
The big problems is convincing people that Guilliman isn't trying to supplant the Emperor. Also, there are some hints in the 500 Worlds book that something dodgy might be happening in the Western expansion area.
Yeah, not surprised.
The Doom Eagle's apothecaries seem to be making other apothecarians on planets in the area to try and up their numbers. And there's some messages from Inquisitors going, what Guilliman's attempting here is the biggest betrayal we've ever seen.
Is it?
Potentially like Legion building again. That could be the plot of this, whatever secret thing Guilliman's doing in the West. I doubt it though, because First, I don't see why the Lion would have any problem with Legion building. He wasn't around when the Legions were split into the chapters. And also, if that's something that's specifically happening in the Western expansion.
He wasn't around. I have this feeling that he would have disagreed when when Guilliman wrote the codex of, limiting the chapters to like 1,000 Marines per 1,000 or something. But, yeah.
Of Ultramar, it doesn't explain why the Lion would have
See, he's now getting to the point that I've been asking, so what? Lion's coming back, but so what? Yeah, they need to talk, but what? They're gonna fight? About what? And even they do what? Is Lion? Will the Lion take over or something?
I need halfway across the galaxy to be annoyed about it. The first thing I think everyone assumes is there's going to be some rivalry. The Lion's going to be annoyed at something Guilliman's doing. But there is another option, which, given how these books tend to go, I think is more likely. The thing that the Lion needs to talk about is a big reveal of some new element that will become the plot of the next book. The Lion's discovered something or knows something that Guilliman doesn't. Maybe something to do with another Primarch. Maybe something to do with Vashtor and that plot. Maybe a new battlefront. Maybe something that's happened in Imperium Nihilus. Maybe even something that ties in with the Dawn of War video game he's going to appear in around the same time. We don't actually know where the plot of that will go, but that campaign happens in Imperium Nihilus, so presumably before the...
I mean, it could be that, he found something out. Brother, we need to talk. I found something. I discovered something. Yeah, it could be it.
The events of 500 Worlds, whatever new big threat he's come to tell Guilliman about, that becomes the plot.
That sounds more logical. That sounds more feasible.
Next 500 Worlds book, or maybe of the 11th edition release, which we think might come in summer. All of that's speculation, of course. Something else might happen. All we know from this is we are going to get some sort of meeting of the Lion and Guilliman. The Lion is now in Imperium Sanctus near Ultramar, in trying to find Guilliman. So it looks like that's actually on the cards. Anyway, that's all the information. It looks like a thing that people have been talking about for about 3 years since the Lion returned is now likely to actually happen in the next few months, which will be interesting. Be interested to see. Of course, I might be completely wrong. They might spend the entire rest of this campaign having the Lion do other things because Guilliman's somewhere else. I don't think that's likely, but they might. I wouldn't put it past Games Workshop. Who knows? Yeah, anyway, there's my little video for a Saturday. That's the big reveal. Is it a reveal? The big piece of new information in 500 Worlds. I will have videos coming out this week that actually tell you the full story of the normal plot where Captain Titus goes adventuring. But until then, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Alright guys, like, share, subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow this series,
notification
like
button.
and subscribe and you'll probably get notifications. And check below for details of the Patreon, the YouTube membership scheme, the merch store, and of course, the second channel. See ya!
Bye!